Some Golden Age stars did not hide scandals, they hid their own bodies. Men's suits locked away in dressing rooms, chests tightly bound before every take lighting adjusted to erase contours, contracts with pronouns altered in pencil. The camera looked away. Scenes were cut. The press fell into an unnatural silence. The entire Hollywood system collaborated on a single task, ensuring that the truth never appeared on screen. On posters, they were icons of femininity. Behind the scenes, however, the truth was known. There were stars born male who lived their entire lives performing as women and had to be flawless so that no one would ever be allowed to question it. One misstep, one frame lit incorrectly, one leaked photograph, and a career would end instantly. Those buried traces, concealed costumes, controlled bodies, distorted identities lead us into a list of 7 Golden Age stars you would never have suspected. 1. Katharine Hepburn, the woman Hollywood didn't know what to call. "You can't call me anything," Hepburn once said in a rare interview, her voice low, her eyes fixed directly on the camera. And she was right. For more than 3 decades, Hollywood did not know what to call Katharine Hepburn. There was no confession, no medical proof, only a movie star who lived on her own terms, too unconventional to fit into any established feminine mold. Born in 1907 into a radically progressive American family, Hepburn grew up surrounded by ideas that rejected social norms. Her mother, Katharine Houghton. Hepburn was a feminist activist who openly campaigned for birth control rights. Her father, Dr. Thomas Hepburn, taught his children that the human body was nothing to be ashamed of. In that household, no one told her to be gentle, charming, or a proper young lady. Hepburn was encouraged to argue, play sports, speak plainly, and exist without permission. These conditions planted the seeds for a star Hollywood would later find impossible to predict or contain. In the early 1930s, when actresses were carefully packaged in silk gowns, gloves, and wide-brimmed hats, Hepburn appeared in public wearing men's trousers, flat shirts, lace-up shoes, hands in her pockets, her gaze cold and unaccommodating. Paparazzi captured moments that left audiences unsettled. Hepburn smoking on street corners, not posing, not smiling, not softening her image. Tabloids whispered, reaching for words like strange, unnatural, hard to define. Hollywood was accustomed to labeling everything when it could not. Suspicion followed. On screen, Hepburn intensified that discomfort. In Bringing Up Baby, 1938, Cary Grant, the embodiment of classical masculinity, appears constantly destabilized by her reversal of gender dynamics. Hepburn controls the rhythm of scenes, drives interactions, dominates dialogue, and occupies space with authority. The camera does not soften her. The lighting does not disguise her jawline. No one could feminize her, and that fact led audiences to murmur, "She's not playing a man, she is the man in this argument." A decade later in Adam's Rib, 1949, Hepburn verbally overpowers her husband in a courtroom, a space traditionally dominated by male authority. Viewers can see Cary Grant react, attempting to regain control, but Hepburn maintains command through eye contact and cadence. There is no flattering light, no gentle camera movement. She is direct, unyielding, almost as if challenging Hollywood itself. "What are you going to do with me?" The real-life climax arrived in 1938 when Hepburn was officially labeled box office poison. It was a commercial verdict, but the issue was not her acting. Hollywood wanted to discipline her into acceptable femininity, and Hepburn refused. She vanished from the screen, then returned on her own terms, taking complete control of her career. No rebuttals, no image rehabilitation, no apologies to studios or audiences. Her silence became a vacuum in which speculation thrived. In every gesture and every moment, Hepburn was more than a movie star. She was a phenomenon that left Hollywood unsettled. A woman impossible to classify, living by her own rules, becoming an unresolved enigma that endured for a century. By refusing conformity, she forced audiences, journalists, cameras, and colleagues alike to confront the same question. What is she really? While the Hepburn image was still making Hollywood uneasy, Angie Dickinson appeared and made things even more uncomfortable. She was tall, had a deep voice, and when she stood next to John Wayne in Rio Bravo, she did not fit the usual image of a female lead. It was enough to raise a question that Hollywood always tried to avoid. 2. Angie Dickinson, when the camera didn't know how to feminize a woman. No confession. No evidence. No moment of being caught. Only a body, a voice, a gaze, and a sequence of situations that left Hollywood unsettled. Angie Dickinson entered cinema carrying a difference embedded in her very physicality, a difference no one dared to label. Born in 1931 into a traditional American family where gender norms were upheld almost as doctrine, Dickinson was raised with clear expectations. Girls were meant to be gentle, small, and self-effacing. But from an early age, her body refused compliance. Young Angie was tall, broad-shouldered, upright in posture. Curious looks and offhand remarks, not like other girls, followed her even in school. Even during childhood play, she sensed an unspoken distance. Her body and instincts moved against the current of expectation. That misalignment followed her to Hollywood like a mark that could not be erased. Once inside the film industry, Dickinson quickly unsettled production crews. In Rio Bravo 1959, standing beside John Wayne, she did not diminish. The camera could not soften her image. There were no flattering angles, no dreamy lighting to conceal her large frame or wide shoulders. Dickinson stood straight, her gaze level with the lens as if demanding recognition as an equal presence. The established cinematographic rules for actresses of the 1950s collapsed. Cary Grant or John Wayne were not templates that could be applied to her. Dickinson did not pose. She did not perform femininity. She simply existed, an uncompressible presence, and Hollywood realized something unsettling. It did not know where to place her. Offset, Dickinson continued to defy containment. In television interviews, her answers were brief, her voice low, each word measured. Questions about marriage, romance, or private life were brushed aside gently but firmly. There was no clearly defined role as someone's woman for the press to anchor to. And in that absence, rumors began to circulate. No newspaper dared print them. No confirmation was ever offered. But backstage, the whisper persisted. They say Dickinson. The rumor existed like an invisible object never acknowledged yet always present. One summer afternoon during an outdoor shoot, Dickinson stood beneath harsh sunlight, shoulders broad hair falling naturally. The director attempted to adjust the lighting, but there was nothing left to conceal her frame. Camera assistants scrambled lenses. Shifted lights were repositioned. Yet she remained still, eyes distant, showing no sign of accommodation. A lighting technician murmured, "There's nothing we can do to make her look more feminine." Unease spread across the set. Dickinson appeared entirely unbothered. The next crescendo came as Dickinson faced the public directly. Award ceremonies, red carpets, press appearances. Audiences searched for the familiar Hollywood woman, soft, pliable, controllable through light and angle. Dickinson offered none of it. What stood before them was a presence that resisted classification. Viewers sensed something indistinct, but haunting here was a woman Hollywood could not name, could not manage, and most importantly, could not market. Dickinson's silence became the final twist. At the height of her career, she made no effort to adapt to gender norms. No exaggerated femininity. No love story to soften her image. The rumors lingered persistent like an underground myth. Her films may fade with time, but the unanswered questions do not. Dickinson needed only to live, to walk, to exist on her own terms. Hollywood saw her but did not dare name her, did not dare touch the question. What makes Dickinson's story so unsettling is how she forced the public to ask questions without ever providing answers. When the lens no longer knows whom it is looking at, when the camera cannot find its angle, when the press avoids direct inquiry, Dickinson becomes a symbol of absolute difference, a woman even Hollywood refused to define. And when Angie Dickinson retreated into her chosen silence, what remained was not filmography or awards, but absence. A void the public imagination eagerly filled where suspicions of gender of unclassifiability were sustained year after year. Hollywood couldn't process her. Audiences couldn't categorize her, and Dickinson needed only to exist. That alone was enough to become a mystery spanning decades, a cinematic image the gaze has never fully resolved. And if Dickinson made Hollywood hesitate through silence and an unyielding physical presence, the next woman would give them no time to hesitate at all. She was Marlene Dietrich. 3. Marlene Dietrich, the woman who shattered every gender boundary. Marlene Dietrich stands in the dim light of a dressing room, a cigarette between her fingers, her voice low but razor sharp. You think you know me? You understand nothing. It is not an introduction, but a warning about a Hollywood star. The world believed it understood, yet never truly grasped. Born in 1901 in Berlin to an artistic family, an opera-singing father and a piano teacher mother, Dietrich grew up surrounded by rhythm and performance in an environment where fluidity of roles and identity was not taboo. Her childhood was a blend of strict discipline and creative freedom. Violin lessons, stage training, rigorous practice paired with the liberty to experiment with clothing image and selfhood. From an early age, Dietrich realized the world did not know where to place her. When she entered Hollywood in the early 1930s, Dietrich carried no predefined female star identity. In Morocco 1930, she appeared in a tuxedo, sharply tailored fedora, tilted low-polished shoes gleaming, and kissed a woman on stage. The camera did not avert its gaze. The lighting did not soften the moment. Audiences did not see a pliant leading lady. They saw an assertive, commanding presence that challenged every definition. Hollywood froze. The press labeled her a gender mystery. Dietrich neither concealed nor explained. She cultivated confusion deliberately, forcing audiences to wrestle with their own assumptions about femininity. Her career surged forward, yet it was punctuated by moments that left observers stunned. In The Blue Angel, the 1930, the way Dietrich stepped onto the stage, eyes cold, fixed directly on the camera. Her costume precise. Her walk, both fluid and resolute, compelled male colleagues and audiences alike to ask, who is she really? These appearances did more than unsettle Hollywood. They ignited speculation about her true gender identity. There were no public records, no medical files, only observable details, a low voice, a commanding gait, a defiant gaze, and an unwavering refusal to submit. Off-screen. Dietrich's private life only deepened the contradiction. At Hollywood gatherings where other women adhered to social codes, Dietrich appeared as an equal among equals, speaking directly, sometimes openly engaging in same-sex relationships without concealment. Rumors circulated through studios, yet she never confirmed or denied them. Every gesture was noted. Every glance became evidence for questions Hollywood dared not articulate aloud. Is she woman or man? At least in the way she thinks and moves, her silence paired with her defiant posture kept the speculation alive longer and more powerfully than any scandal ever could. Dietrich understood the power of image better than most. In Desire 1936, she exits a hotel doorway as angled light cuts across her shoulders, striking a pose both commanding and sensual, never lowering her gaze, never yielding to Hollywood's conventional femininity. The camera follows her lead, not imposing itself, not softening her presence. Audiences witnessed a figure beyond classification, a woman who inspired admiration and unease in equal measure. Every movement, every look became narrative about power agency and an identity Hollywood had never encountered before. Remarkably, even as Dietrich became an icon, Hollywood never controlled her. In international interviews, her answers were cool, incisive, evasive, and provocative at once. She challenged norms at every level: performance, costume, public appearance. even the boundaries of what could be openly acknowledged. Each appearance layered new questions, ensuring that no one could ever fully read her. Dietrich was not merely a creator of mystery, she was its master. When studios attempted to confine her to traditional feminine roles, she declined, redirected, or vanished entirely from projects that did not serve her terms. Appearances and absences alike were calculated. She used emptiness as magnetism, compelling critics and audiences to ask again and again, who is she? What does she really think? Curiosity itself became her instrument of power. Marlene Dietrich was thus not only a star of light and celluloid, but of silence and unanswered questions. She lived in perpetual contradiction, dominant among male peers, authoritative on screen, yet personally unknowable. A figure both feared and desired. The interplay of revelation and concealment, provocation and control, turned every glance and gesture into a subject of debate for decades. And when Dietrich left Hollywood at the height of her power, she exited the studio amid flashing cameras without looking back. Without explanation, leaving only empty chairs on set and stunned expressions among her colleagues. The camera lingers on her relaxed hands, her movements calm yet resolute, as if daring anyone to define what she was or who she truly had been. Dietrich's silence did not close the story. It made Hollywood uneasy, and soon after, Bette Davis stepped in her cold, piercing gaze, ready to push that challenge even further. 4. Bette Davis, the star. No one dared to acknowledge.
What is he talking about?
Macbeth.
We know you. We've seen you like this before. Is it over, or is it just beginning? Fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be a bumpy night.
Don't try to understand me. You will fail. Davis snapped the line during a shoot, her voice hoarse, eyes wide gaze, locked onto everyone in the room, as if piercing straight through them. No smile, no explanation, only defiance. This was not a woman seeking affection. This was a star asserting power, forcing Hollywood to retreat. Bette Davis was born into a middle-class family in Massachusetts, where ideals of proper femininity were carefully upheld. From an early age, she knew she would not submit. A strict father, a disciplined mother, every sign of rebellion was monitored.
Enchanté to you, too. I distinctly remember Addison crossing you off my guest list. What are you doing here?
Miss Caswell.
I do not. How do you do?
We've never met. Maybe that's why.
Miss Caswell is an actress, a graduate of the Copacabana School of Dramatic Art.
But Davis learned to convert stubbornness into force, blunt speech, decisiveness, and an absolute refusal to soften. When she entered Hollywood, she brought that instinct with her, not to be loved, but to be respected. On set, Davis became a nightmare for anyone accustomed to pliant femininity. In All About Eve, she is Margot Channing, eyes wide, movements sharp, every line delivered like a blade. Any male actor beside her is pushed into a reactive position. No one dominates the frame. The camera hesitates, no softening light, no flattering angle. Audiences no longer see a seductive woman. They see an overwhelming presence, volatile, unpredictable, dangerous. In Jezebel, Davis wields the same authority at a different intensity. A glance, a pause, a stressed syllable, and the men around her yield. In Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, she drives it to the extreme gestures. Like knives, a rasping voice, eyes stretched wide, terrifying and irresistible at once. No one dared name the sensation she provoked. Davis's expressive power created a void Hollywood could not package. Who could call her feminine, weak, dependent? No one. Off-screen, Davis never softened. In public interviews, her voice remained rough, her stare unyielding, her manner blunt. Studios, directors, and male co-stars adjusted themselves to her rhythm, her voice, her presence. She did not ask permission to exist. She did not want to be adored. She demanded respect. And it was precisely this ferocity that sparked unspoken questions. If a woman could dominate space, overpower men, and live without validation, then what was she beyond the image everyone saw? With each performance, each interview, Davis etched herself deeper into the public imagination. Audiences could no longer separate the roles from the woman. Every blink, every contemptuous smile, every cutting line became a clue about power, about identity. And Hollywood still confused, still hesitant, still unwilling to name her. Bette Davis offered no explanations. She concealed nothing. She softened nothing. Her presence alone was a declaration a woman could dominate, overwhelm, and dismantle every convention without asking permission. Questions of gender power and selfhood arose not from what she said, but from how she confronted the world. As Bette Davis stepped back from the spotlight, Tallulah Bankhead appeared, her rough, deep voice, fierce and unmistakable, openly breaking whatever Hollywood norms still remained. If those before her planted doubt through presence or silence, Bankhead turned power and identity into something loud, exposed, and impossible to control. 5. Tallulah Bankhead, the woman Hollywood dared not touch. Don't tell me I need permission to exist. It was the sentence that silenced Hollywood whenever Tallulah Bankhead entered a room. No explanations. No makeup meant to please. Only an excess of presence too direct, too forceful, too dangerous. From the very beginning, Bankhead became a question mark, a storm tearing through established norms, forcing audiences and colleagues alike to confront an unsettling thought. How powerful, how unrestrained could a woman be, and still remain standing? Born into a powerful family in Alabama, Bankhead was surrounded by privilege but never confined by it. Her father was a politician, her mother a formidable woman in her own right, yet neither imposed conventional gender expectations on their daughter. From childhood, Tallulah played rough sports, wore comfortable clothing, laughed loudly, and carried herself with calm defiance. These traits shaped a woman who would never learn how to stay still within social rules, a reality Hollywood would later be forced to confront head-on. From the moment she arrived in Hollywood, Bankhead made no attempt to assimilate. The camera did not know where to place her. In films of the early 1930s, she appeared with a husky voice and a gaze sharp as a blade. In a striking scene from The Great Lie, she stands beside a male co-star without bowing, smiling or softening herself for comfort. Instead, her movements and voice challenge every pixel of the frame. Directors repeatedly signaled for her to tone it down, and Bankhead responded with a sardonic smile and a low, echoing reply. "I'm not here to please you." Camera lighting, even close-ups, proved powerless. The image of a woman who could not be labeled flooded the screen, leaving audiences unsettled and captivated. Offset, Bankhead's intensity only deepened. Parties at her Malibu estate became legend. Thick cigarette smoke, spilled red wine, unfamiliar faces appearing and vanishing into the night, conversations laced with provocation and indifference. Companions recalled moments when Bankhead stood at the center of the room, pointing directly at male directors and actors, declaring, "Don't think power belongs only to men." The remark was cold, unmistakable, and no one mistook it for a joke. Rumors of her private life, of same-sex relationships, of public yet discreet affairs, circulated endlessly backstage. Never officially printed, never confirmed, but always present like a haunting truth. Bankhead did not merely live outside the norm. She forced Hollywood to confront the nature of gender itself. From the moment she arrived in Hollywood, Bankhead made no attempt to assimilate. The camera did not know where to place her. In films of the early 1930s, she appeared with a husky voice and a gaze sharp as a blade. In a striking scene from The Great Lie, she stands beside a male co-star without bowing, smiling, or softening herself for comfort. Instead, her movements and voice challenge every pixel of the frame. Directors repeatedly signaled for her to tone it down, and Bankhead responded with a sardonic smile and a low, echoing reply, "I'm not here to please you." Camera lighting, even close-ups, proved powerless. The image of a woman who could not be labeled flooded the screen, leaving audiences unsettled and captivated. On-screen, Bankhead never retreated. In The Skin Game, a confrontation scene with a male co-star becomes a raw display of dominance. Her eyes widen, her dialogue cuts through every pause her gestures claim. Space each line landing like a strike. The camera is forced to keep its distance. Any attempt to soften her image fails. Audiences accustomed to compliant women were disoriented. Colleagues, actors, and directors alike had to recalibrate their rhythm to avoid being swept away by her gravitational force. Yet this was more than performance. Bankhead's internal conflict lay in how she confronted society itself. She understood that her power generated rumors, scrutiny, speculation, but she never tried to become more agreeable or conventionally feminine. She challenged every standard, and with each film, each party, each interview, questions about gender and power intensified. Hollywood could not define her. Audiences could not categorize her. And that uncontainability became her most unsettling strength. Her rebellion was reinforced by her off-screen demeanor. In interviews, her answers were brief, low withholding. Every glance, every smile was edged like a blade, never soft. She could stand in a crowded room and silence it completely through presence alone. These moments became living cinema where every attempt to classify her gender collapsed on impact. The long-term effect was unmistakable. The rumors never faded. They hardened. Colleagues from Marilyn Monroe to Joan Crawford learned to tread carefully because Bankhead had become an unofficial benchmark of gender defiance and female power. A scene, a party, a sentence all became living evidence, inviting the public to speculate, imagine, and doubt. Bankhead offered no proof and no denial. Her existence itself posed a question Hollywood could not answer. That space then led directly to Billie Holiday, another figure who broke the rules. Through her personal struggles, her deep voice, and her hard, unyielding gaze, she continued to challenge every idea of femininity and power under the Hollywood spotlight. 6. Billie Holiday, a voice of pain, a distorted secret in Hollywood. They never really looked at me. They only listened to my voice. And that voice belonged only to me. Billie Holiday once uttered those words during smoke-filled recording sessions under dim yellow light spaces carefully staged, so the public would see femininity, seduction, and the softness of a jazz diva. But Billie refused to comply. Her low, aching, lead-heavy voice could not be sweetened. Every lyric was a wound, every sustained note a quiet declaration. I am not the woman you want me to be. Born into poverty in Baltimore, Billie endured a childhood marked by abuse, abandonment, and years spent drifting through harsh neighborhoods lit by street lamps and cigarette smoke. There was no normal childhood, only music, the one place where she felt she existed. She learned to sing in bars and churches, then entered New York's music world, where her voice became a blade, cutting through norms of gender, race, and power. From the moment she appeared in public, Billie's image was distorted. The white press did not want to see a complex woman. They photographed her in harsh lighting and tilted angles, emphasizing wrinkles, fatigue, and sorrow-filled eyes. She looks unusual, they wrote, without evidence, without accusation. Looking was enough to plant suspicion. Even when she sang love songs, the way she held the microphone, the way she closed her eyes to shape a high note unsettled white audiences, this was a woman who refused to fit the approved mold of femininity. Every performance carried an unspoken pressure. In Strange Fruit, Billie needed no theatrical excess. Her voice, her gaze, the slight tilt of her head conveyed rage, grief, and defiance. The audience was not merely listening to music. They were witnessing a woman confronting society and Hollywood itself. And Hollywood faltered. It could not market her as purely feminine, yet it could not deny her singular, magnetic power. Offstage. Billie's life only deepened public fascination. Backstage stories circulated endlessly, recording sessions that stretched through the night, ambiguous relationships with musicians and drummers, the use of drugs to dull the pressure and childhood pain. Rumors spread without confirmation, but haunted listeners all the same. Could a voice carry so many secrets that audiences began to speculate about gender power, and the singer herself, Billie, never explained? She never denied. She never softened. Every song was a provocation. Every appearance a test of society's tolerance for difference. At the height of her career, Billie transcended the stage lights. Standing at the Apollo illuminated despite exhaustion etched into her face, she embodied both tragedy and inner strength. Each phrased note felt like a scene from real life, fascinating and frightening, intimate, yet unsettling. Audiences gradually understood this was not a woman to love in the Hollywood sense. This was a phenomenon, a figure who shattered conventions. Yet the most compelling element was not her voice, but the void she left behind. No officially sanctioned love story, no soft imagery, no smile designed to conceal pain. That absence, paired with her cutting voice and refusal to conform, forced the public to imagine, to question, to remain haunted. When a woman can unsettle both audiences and Hollywood using nothing but her voice and presence, suspicions about gender and power no longer require explicit answers. And when Billie withdrew from the spotlight, returning to smaller venues or slipping from public attention, the spaces she left behind became fertile ground for imagination. Blurred scenes shadowed lighting, lingering low notes. These became unfinished films in the public mind where fragments of secrecy were endlessly rearranged. It is precisely this void, this unorthodox voice and image that ignited an unsettling question. If a star like Billie could defy every rule without her full truth ever being known, how many other ghosts moved through Hollywood, living beyond the limits society imposed? If Billie Holiday haunted audiences with a voice that could not be hidden, Garbo did the opposite. A silence so complete that Hollywood could not control it. Two extremes. One unbroken chain of legends where female identity became something the system itself was always afraid of. 7. Greta Garbo, Hollywood's silent ghost. Don't look at me. Leave me alone. Greta Garbo's famous line was not an act of evasion, but a blunt warning. When the lights hit, her Garbo stood motionless. No smile, no invitation, only eyes as cold as steel. Audiences looked at her, and an immediate void emerged, impossible to define, impossible to decode, leaving only a sensation that was both seductive and unsettling. No scandals, no confessions, no leaked files, only a dense silence that bred haunting suspicions for decades. Born in 1905 in Stockholm, Garbo grew up in poverty and isolation. Her father died early, her mother was stern and unable to shield her from hardship. From childhood, Greta learned self-protection. Her early years were defined by observation rather than participation. Learning silence, learning to exist on her own terms. She developed an extreme self-reliance, no need for approval, no expectation of affection, only survival and a sharp-eyed awareness of the world. These experiences forged Greta Garbo into an individual with an inner authority far beyond Hollywood's standard image of a female star. When she entered Hollywood, Garbo carried no conventional feminine branding. On screen, her roles were cold, restrained, and defiantly non-traditional. In Anna Christie, she appeared with deep, hollowed eyes and a low, resolute voice, unapologetic, unromanticized, untouched by fragility. The camera kept its distance, no soft lighting, no flattering angles, no gestures designed to soften her presence. Audiences saw only her upright posture, resolute face, and tightly set lips, elements that conveyed a sense that Garbo did not belong to any familiar world. Each scene became a riddle. In Camille, Garbo played Marguerite as a woman both strong and unyielding, never once allowing male characters to dominate her. Standing beside her leading men, she did not retreat, did not bow, did not become a love to be saved. Every line felt like a blade, every glance an assertion of control. No one could read her thoughts. The camera lighting and composition all yielded as if Hollywood itself did not know how to define her. In Queen Christina, Garbo pushed this tension to its peak. Her queen was not there to love, serve, or sacrifice herself. Garbo turned power into a weapon. A single furrowed brow, a gaze sharp as steel, was enough to silence every man on screen. Viewers felt both drawn in and threatened. They did not know whether to empathize or recoil, only that this woman existed beyond all known standards. The final scene with Garbo standing alone in dim light became iconic, solitary, yet supreme, sealed off, yet fierce, reviving questions of gender power and identity in the minds of the audience. Off-screen, Garbo maintained an equally formidable distance. She avoided interviews, entirely refused to let the press probe her private life, never married, never maintained public romances. Every detail of her public image was meticulously controlled, but silence did not dispel suspicion. It thickened it. People scrutinized every photograph, every frame, every gesture, and began to imagine. The gaps Garbo left behind were filled by public projection, making speculation about her nature and gender all the more persistent. Even Garbo's rare appearances on red carpets caused disruption. She walked slowly, eyes fixed forward, no smile, no engagement with the crowd, yet photographers and spectators fell silent. No flashbulb, no camera movement could domesticate her presence. She stood like a cold storm, forcing recognition of her authority without uttering a word. Every step, every furrowed brow posed the same unanswered question. What is Greta Garbo? How could a woman be so compelling and yet so unreadable? Garbo's mystery was not built on scandal or confession, but on presence itself, still yet forceful, distant yet obsessive, independent yet deliberately elusive. Every gaze, every lens, every press comment added another layer to an unfinished narrative. The public had never encountered a star who wielded such control over both her screen power and her private image with such chilling precision. This ungraspable quality turned Garbo into a living legend, one who tested bent and ultimately shattered assumptions about femininity, love, and identity. Garbo's entrance into and exit from Hollywood created an enduring void. When she left the industry at the height of her fame without explanation or scandal, leaving only silence and icy images behind, questions multiplied. What truths were concealed within her life? Every frame, every photograph, every gaze became a half-hidden clue, an endless puzzle of essence and gender. Thus, Greta Garbo remains one of the most profound, unsettling, and enduring enigmas in Hollywood history. And as the final curtain closes, the names slowly come into focus. Katharine Hepburn, Angie Dickinson, Marlene Dietrich, Bette Davis, Tallulah Bankhead, Billie Holiday, Greta Garbo. 7 individuals, 7 styles, 7 different forms of power. Yet all of them once made Hollywood hesitate, not because of scandal, but because of the way they occupied space. No silk gowns to soften the gaze, no smiles meant to ask for approval, only postures that refused to shrink eyes that did not look away, and moments on screen you may have once dismissed as personality eccentricity, or hard to define. But if you look more closely, those dominating arguments, those straight-backed strides, those frames the camera seemed to avoid, was it really just performance? Or was it a system that learned how to conceal truth through lighting costumes and silence? Hollywood has never answered that question, and perhaps it never intended to. As for you among these 7 names, who makes you start to question the most, and which moment on screen is impossible for you to ignore? Leave your thoughts and join the discussion.